Hey everybody, it's Jeff, and today's episode is with Mr. Ken Pozek, the founder of the Pozek Group here in Orlando. And I was very excited about this one, primarily because I had been following him for about a year now on social media, and we had never connected. And lo and behold, we live probably less than 5 miles from each other. And that's what's funny, and that's also the beauty of social media, because I probably would have never crossed paths with him. But in this episode, Ken shares just a lot about his pathway to greatness, and really, his definition of greatness is living a life well lived. So I just want you to think about that, hang on those words, hear what old Ken has to say, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks. Here we go. For those of my circle of friends that are going to listen to this, I seriously doubt they've ever heard of you or encountered you, because we run in different circles. And that's what excites me about this conversation. And I was so happy when I reached out and you said yes. One, because I wanted to get to know you better. And then two, I wanted more people to know who you are and what you stand for and what you do.
I appreciate that, man. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So this is Ken Pozek. And I found you first because I went to the Keller Williams office to interview brokerages to find out if I was going to join. And somebody's like, well, if you want to be a part of team, we got a superstar upstairs. And I was so new. And this was just this last year.
Sure.
And so I talked to them. And so as soon as they said your name, I'm like, well, let me just Google this guy and see who he is. And so I found you and I started watching some of your YouTube videos, and they're great. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic. And for whether you're in the market for a house or you're a real estate agent, they're great videos. I mean, it's just
we try to put out good content that's not just hey, do you want to buy a house? I feel like that's if I can solve that and be consistent, then we should win.
There you go. You're creating relationships. Well, before I dive deeper into this, so I like to start with would you rather questions.
All right, let's do.
All right. So the first one is, would you rather freeze time or travel back?
Travel back. Yeah.
Okay. Why?
I feel like, time is one of the greatest teachers. And if I could learn something and go reteach myself at a younger age, or maybe, I think mistakes are great and it's good to make mistakes. And yet, like, some of them you wish you didn't do. And so I feel like, go back and teach myself something would be great.
There you go. Part of the pathway to greatness, right? It's the name of the podcast. Okay. Would you rather live without music or TV?
TV. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. I saw you just got a record player.
Yeah, I got one. I bought one for myself this summer for my birthday. And I got some old, like, Pink Floyd and movie soundtracks. I'm a big movie guy. I love some of the stuff, Hans Zimmer and John Williams, and just such talented guys, just huge catalogs to listen to. And so my wife has got me a bunch of vinyls this past week for Christmas. And and so that's something about music that can lift your mood, move your mood, change your mood. And I feel like so much of like the video content that we do is we spend a lot of time picking the right music, and it's just such an emotional journey. And I could definitely do without TV.
Do you picture when you walk into a room, a soundtrack playing?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. or like I'll think about funny going back for a TV show, but you think about a TV show of like the music that was playing during that and like how this would be a good overlay for what's going on right now. So that's a tough one, but yeah, I think music means a lot. Okay,
awesome. All right. I know this one may be tough because this is like picking your favorite child. Magic Kingdom or Epcot?
It's like picking my favorite child. I'm really on an Epcot tear. We love it. The food, the experiences, there's always different holiday events going on. And so, and the rides are getting better there now too. So, I mean, like the Guardians of the Galaxy ride is the best ride at Disney. So if I had to choose, I think it would be Epcot.
All right. And the last one, pizza or tacos?
Tacos, actually. I feel like pizza's the easy one, but tacos, man, there's just such a wide variety. You could get a little bit of everything.
So do you have a favorite taco place in the area?
I do Hunger Street Tacos a lot. I feel like I eat there all the time. more than I should lately. But and then yeah, I think that's my main taco go place. Oh, you?
Because you can just walk down there now, right?
We can, yeah, we can go right to the Plant Street Market. But then Whole Enchilada is directly across from us, but it's not like a taco joint. It's kind of a Mexican joint. You get like enchiladas and everything else that you might not get at a taco stand. But I've been really digging these like little taco stands that are just like, mom and dad are back there making their recipe, digging in. And yeah, that's my favorite stuff.
Yeah, there's the show on Netflix. I think it's called Tacos. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
I think it's either called Tacos or Street Tacos or something, but it's like a whole documentary, but it's a series of all these different taco stands that they go to all over the world. So I think you'd be fascinated with that one.
Is it on Netflix or is it on
Netflix? Yep.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. I love all those cooking shows because there's a ton. Like Somebody Feed Phil it took over when Anthony Bourdain left us.
Yeah.
That I just think it's such a great, he does a really good job of communicating not just the food, but the origins of it and the feel of the area. And I love that.
That is so cool, man. Those are big shoes to fill too.
Yes. Yeah. He was a monster. So Ken, you're the founder of the Pozek Group, the founder of Orlando Real. You're part of the Real brokerage now. Mm-hmm. And so the more important thing than those is you're married to Holly, your wife. Yeah. You've been together for a little over 20 years.
Yeah, we have. We were just high school sweethearts and, grew up same school, same church. And then shortly after she graduated high school, we got engaged and then married. So I'm 2 years older than she is. So we waited that out a little bit, but yeah, it's been wild, man. So 2007, we got married.
That's awesome. And 3 children.
Yeah, we've got a teenage son, 13, and then 2 daughters, 11 and 4.
Now 13, is he going, he's 8th grade, right?
He is, yeah, getting ready to go to high school, which blows my mind. I feel way too young to have a high schooler, but here we are.
You are. At least you look young, so we won't ask you what your age is.
I feel young, so that's
yeah. Well, my son just started high school, so he's at Windermere, and it's weird. It's very, very strange to have that, and he's a monster. So it's like having another grown man wandering through the house.
Yes, yeah. How tall is he?
He's 6'1", 230.
Oh my god! At 14 years old.
Yeah,
it's huge. Is he playing football or anything?
He is, yes.
Oh my god, I gotta come see him. That's awesome. Yeah, Jack's tall, but he's 5'10" at 13, and so he's gonna be. I'm only 6'1", so I don't know where he's getting it from, but he's gonna be a tall one. But yeah, you're right. So all of a sudden, you're dealing with hormones and random stuff that, like, I remember. I'm not that old to where I don't remember being a teenager with my parents, and the crap that I gave them. But man, it's a whole new world. That's for sure.
I don't remember pushing back as much as mine do.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And my parents weren't like strict parents. I feared my dad, and he never laid a hand on me, never, yelled at me, nothing. There was just something that I never even thought about questioning some of the things that they questioned me on, which is okay. I mean, I think it's good that they question, because I want to encourage them not to just always, bend to whatever authority has to say, is to question it a little bit and find out, okay, what's the reason behind that? But it's like, good grief, dude, everything.
So for you and your dad, it was some mutual respect there. Whereas you and I we have to learn something with our sons. I'm sure that's probably part of it. There's some learning lesson that you and I need to go through.
Yeah. And I don't want to fight him.
Because he'll kick your ass.
So the good thing is, so we just bought, invested in a home gym because he's really getting into lifting weights. And at 14, he can't go to a gym other than like LA Fitness. And that's too far from where we're at, or too far for me to want to drive.
Yeah.
And so I've been really excited because every day it's, Dad, you want to go out and work out? I was like, yes. Like, I'm not going to say no to that. So I'm just a little stronger than him right now. And I know that's not going to last 16, very long.
He's going to be like benching you.
Oh, he's going to be a monster. He'll probably be benching me by next summer.
That's cool. That's cool.
But it's cool. Well, the name of the podcast, I battled for a long time not wanting to do one because everybody has a podcast nowadays. And just like everybody has a YouTube channel. But I felt the need that I remembered I said the same thing when I was getting ready to write the book. I didn't want to write my book. but I thought this would be a great thing. And the reason for it is similar to why you like the Orlando Reel and why you do what you do, is I just want to encourage others and provide value. And so the main thing, and the reason why I've landed on the name of Pathways to Greatness, is everybody has a different definition of greatness, and everybody has a different pathway and pathways that they've taken and been on, whether they did it up by choice or they were forced to get to where they are. And that was the reason, because I want people to know there's more to things, but they just have to keep exploring and keep pushing. And so many times in our right now society, we see people where they're at now. We see you with your YouTube channel with 33,000 subscribers, and you've got, millions of views, but they don't know what you've done and how long it's taken. And that was one of the things that I knew you humbly and with meekness would be able to present a great story. And I wanted to hear it. So before I started asking you a bunch of questions, I thought he's got to be one of the first ones that I have on this show. And so I want to just stop talking and start you from where you started and how you started to go and what you think your definition of greatness is.
Man, I feel like definition of greatness is a great question. I feel like I've been on this journey of living a life well lived. And I feel like like when we get to our deathbed, we sit there and we want to pull our feet up in the bed and hopefully pass in a good way, pass of old age, not because of some tragedy, and be able to say I lived a life well lived. And to me, that is greatness. I feel like everybody's definition is different, and I feel like if you give it your all and you did everything you could, and you didn't take the easy way out too many times, right? I feel like that's so easy and almost celebrated in our life of laziness and all this kind of thing. And so, for me, it's how do I live all out and squeeze out every little bit of my life that I can, because we only get one shot. And so we talked about tattoos before the show started, and I've been trying to figure out how to put that into a tattoo, because I've got one tattoo. It's a quote from Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. It's it's a Japanese parable. It's you fall down 7 times, you rise 8. So I've got a tattoo for that. And so now I'm like, how do you play all out, making sure that I lived a life well lived. So to me, that's greatness.
That's a wonderful, wonderful definition. So as you're trying to live life well, rewind, because you're a public figure. And like I said, is the people that are in my circle probably don't know of you. So I want them to know of you. So, you've been a highly successful real estate agent. So rewind when you got into the business, because that's the part that nobody sees. Yeah. And I know that you know this, but the people that are listening, it maybe is one of the hardest professions to get into than I can ever imagine. It was way harder than I thought. And it's not hard because of the contracts, which there's some trickiness there. It's just hard connecting and making people aware that you're in the business.
Yeah. It's self-promotion without self-promotion, being self-promoting. Nobody likes the guy that's like, oh, I'm the best realtor ever, and I'm the number one this, and I'm the number one that. Like, nobody's attracted to that. Like, I've never got one call because some article of me being one of the top agents out there. I've never once have I gotten a call from a client who found me because of my accolades and wanted to work with me. They called me because they thought that I was knowledgeable about something one way or the other with the content marketing that we've done. So going back, so I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Originally, we moved to Orlando 6 years ago, and I was a real estate agent there. But prior to that, I was in high school. So I literally been doing this since I got out of high school. It was like, I knew I wanted to marry my wife. I knew I wanted to be in real estate. Those are like 2 of the things I know for certain that I've been doing a long time. And so my parents, they got us these no money down DVD, or sorry, not even DVDs, they're VHS tapes when I was like 14, 15 years old. And I remember binge watching them like 2, 3 in the morning. I'm watching these like hours and hours of these guys talking about buying houses, no money down, and how anybody could do it. So at 17 years old, I applied for my first mortgage, of which I was turned down because I didn't realize you had to have credit and also like be 18 years old to get a mortgage. And so anyways, I waited till I was 18 and a half, bought my first house. And then I flipped 13 homes and 2 commercial buildings by the time I was 21. And then the market fell apart, and it was like, I didn't finish college. I don't really know anything other than real estate. So why not get into real estate sales? That seems easy. And so it was just grinding out, calling Wells Fargo and Chase and Bank of America and asset management companies and saying, listen, I know there's foreclosures here in Detroit because there's a ton, like 1 out of every 2 home sales is a foreclosure right now. So you guys need somebody to help sell. I would love to be that guy. And I would make 30 to 40 calls a day. Eventually somebody gave me their portfolio to sell. And that's how I got into real estate.
How long did it take you before somebody gave you their business, their portfolio?
Almost a year. Yeah, it was almost a year. And so in the meantime, I had a friend of mine who was also listing bank-owned homes, which is why I knew like it existed out there. Like it was even a thing you could do. And he's like, hey, we got houses to clean out, meaning like somebody got foreclosed on and left all their stuff. And like, I'm literally like, one day I remember shoveling what we assume was human poop out of a house that they just crapped all over the house. It's too big to be the animals. But anyways, I was like, this sucks. This is really, really bad. Not where I saw my life going when I was watching those VHS tapes, trying to become an overnight millionaire. And yeah, so just, I knew there was a better way, but I needed to take care of my family because at this time my wife's pregnant, getting ready to have her firstborn. And yeah, so that's kind of our path. So eventually somebody said yes. And then I parlayed that into a bigger business and a bigger business. And then in 16, my wife and I were like, why do we live in Detroit? It's cold here. And it's, business is good, but it's not like so good. We can't try to start over somewhere. And so in later 16, we moved here, and just kind of the love for Florida and Disney and the beaches and all the stuff that we have at our fingertips here made it super attractive. And so we've been here for 6 years now, and we'll close out the year. We sold over $200 million this year, which is a big number. We got almost 50 million on for next year already. So it's a good start. And what we're building, I think is resonating with a lot of people.
That's awesome. Well, it definitely resonates. I mean, it's attractive because you can see one from the outside. It looks like you're doing all the right things from my perspective. And it seems like you've got a good, solid team, everybody around you, and that you're humble as a leader in the sense that you don't put yourself up there. Yes, the group has your name on it, but it doesn't seem like you rule from an ivory tower.
Not at all. Yeah, I mean, it's super kind of you to say we're making all the right moves, but yeah, there's plenty of mistakes we're making and failing forward along the way and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. I've spent money on stuff before that completely bombed. We've had great people join our team, and we've had bad actors as well, and just kind of people that we've had to cycle through and try to keep our head up. But yeah, I'm very clear that it's because of my team that I'm where I'm at. And I might be the figurehead and might do a lot of the content, but they're the ones that make it all go around.
That's fantastic. So if you rewound and we talk about pathways, were there, there has to be what? So I'm going to change it from where to, or were to what was one of the big, I guess, decisions early in your career? You see a fork in the road. You could go this way or that way. What would that have been? And how did you determine which way you were going to go?
You want me to go early in my career? Was probably switching from like the real estate, bank owned, short sale, grimy bottom of our industry to going after luxury real estate in Detroit. So like my last sale in Detroit, which I'm talking Detroit, Michigan, not exactly the highest luxury market. It was like a $3.5 million home. I was working with a lot of CEOs and sports players and that sort of thing. And so it was my decision first was like, hey, I'm going to leave behind now everything that I've built as an REO agent and try to switch over into the luxury market and just see if I could do it. And so within a year, I was able to completely switch over, and it was a lot of fun. And so it was that. And then I would say, moving states wholesale, like we didn't know anybody here. We knew Mickey. And so humbling myself, essentially going back to doing open houses every weekend and door knocking and building a business from scratch again. That was probably my second one where I was like, I need to make a change.
So you've got a couple of pathways. So with the first one, that's a big switch again from the little bit that I know about the real estate market and what it takes, moving niches, because that's what everybody says. There's riches in the niches, and you've got to have that niche. That's a big switch. What were some of the things that people could, as they start to think, because to me, that's like a career change.
It is.
Even though, yes, you're still in real estate, but it's a career change. What were some of the critical things that you did to help you make that switch?
Yeah, I think part of it was just being okay with the naysayers. Like I moved from the city of Detroit. Like I was literally living in the city, $100,000 average sales price to, I told my wife, I'm like, listen, we're going to sell our house and go rent in the affluent area of town, which is like just 40 minutes away, but it's like here in Detroit or here in Orlando, like living in, I don't know, St. Cloud and then going to Winter Park, and I'm like, we're just going to immerse ourselves in the area and, get to know people, send our son to the right school, like, and that kind of thing. So I knew real estate, but I didn't know the area. I didn't know the people and that sort of thing, which actually honestly springboarded us to be able to move to Orlando. Cause I'm like, I already did this. Like, yes, I was only 40 minutes away before, and now it's, 14-hour drive away, but I did this before. And so for me, it was just the understanding of believing in myself that like, I knew the path to take, that if I trusted in my work ethic, that it would all work okay. And to me, that served me really well.
So a couple of things that you said that I want people to really hear. One is work ethic. And then two, it doesn't sound like that you were averse to risk.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I'm not shoveling human feces anymore. So, I mean, to me, that was the bottom and everything else is better. So
everybody has their motivator. That's yours.
Yeah. So to me, I knew it was going to be better than that.
Well, I could make that the title of the podcast. Stop shoveling feces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That could be your next shirt.
It could be. Yeah.
But again, what I want people to hear and to take note is the risk. And I know for me, that was one of the things that has always kept me from doing things, was that fear.
Sure.
And my mom and I have talked about it, is that that fear was nurtured in me because she's naturally a very cautious and anxious person. Sure. So I never thought that I was nurtured that way until I listened to Can't Hurt Me, the book by David Goggins.
Sure.
And he had talked about how he was nurtured into that same mentality. And when I realized that, I thought, because I was like giving myself that label that, well, I just don't like risk. Well, I'm still not a huge fan of it. Right. But when I realized where it came from, I was able to address it. And from that, I've done a lot more risk-taking things than I ever thought that I would. The other part that I want people to take note that you did is that you use your transferable skills into a new career. Yeah. And I feel like so many people think, well, I can't do that. Well, they think they can't do that because they don't know that market, but they're not willing to look at the transferable skills. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's being really clear with yourself. And so the transferable skills, that's a great point, man. I never really articulated it that way before, but I think that you have to know yourself. What are you good at? What are you not good at? I think there's too many people out there trying to improve the stuff that they're not good at instead of doubling down on what they know for certain of who they are and what they do well. And so for me, like I didn't know I could do content marketing. That was like one of the many things that I just tried until I found something that really worked. But at the same time, I was doing all the stuff that I did know that I was going to be good at. So door knocking and open houses and cold calling and building relationships with business owners that could send me multiple pieces of business. I knew I could do that stuff and I would be successful. And at the same time, I was trying. I had a trying bucket, if you will. And so I think that there's enough people that, you lean into what you're really good at and do your best at that, and then see what the transferable skill is. So if you're a nurse and you're like, I don't make enough as a nurse, I'd love to make more money, but I want to keep helping people. Well, you probably have some sort of bedside manner that's going to be great in a lot of different realms. And so how can you take that and move that into something else? I think that's a no-brainer.
What role did mentors play in your path?
Yeah, I think my mentors early on were people that were like elders in the church and that sort of thing, who were also very big in business in real life. So real life, outside of the church. But for me, it was, I've got this one guy who was a VP of Chrysler, another one that ended up becoming like the president of GM, like GM Motors, like for all of Europe. And I just got to, look at their life and say, okay, what do I like out of there in terms of their family and their work ethic and some, different things that I could take into my life, transferable skills from there, what I can just observe from them and take into my life. And that mattered a lot early on, especially the fact that I was just this, white kid from Detroit, not really much. I didn't go to college or anything like that, but I knew I could work my tail off. And through that, I would do well. And so that was great. And then early on, I hired a coach in real estate. So the first year I got into real estate, as soon as I landed the first contract with this one bank, it was actually Wells Fargo. I had a little bit extra money from my first sale, and I went and signed up for one-on-one coaching with this real estate company. And they were like, "Hey, here's how you prospect. Here's how you treat it like a business. Here's how don't get caught up in shiny objects, and here's how you can stay super consistent. And if you're accountable with us, you're going to win." And so ever since then, I've had a coach. And so I still currently have two coaches. I've got one that helps me with content marketing, and one of them that helps me with the team building and like mindset stuff. And so I'm really big on the coaching world.
See, and that's another thing that is valuable. And thank you for sharing that. So many people that I've encountered, you don't hear a lot of them pay homage to the people that have helped them get there, or to even share that they've invested in themselves, because so many people want to appear to have all the answers.
The savant, they were just like, I just figured this out. Yeah.
and I just see that there's such value in investing in yourself. And that's what I heard early on in my career was, if there's anything that you're going to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll never lose a dollar that you invest in yourself on.
Yeah, that's good, because you're either going to figure out something about yourself you never knew, or you're going to try something and say, "Oh, I don't want to do that." And so I think that the cycle of failure, the faster we can get through that, the faster we succeed. And I feel like eventually you hit a tipping point where I'm firmly a believer that like I could still fail massively. I could lose all of this, but I know that I have the skills to then bounce back faster than I ever would have before, because I've made enough mistakes and I've had enough wins that I can just lean into what I know works.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was listening to, and they asked them, how would you feel if you lost everything tomorrow? He's like, I'd feel fine, because I'd build it all back probably in 6 months, and probably more, because I probably have bad habits intertwined in what I've dealt with.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
No, I love that. And so the one of the big questions that I have also for you is, talk to us about the role that your wife played in all of this, because I can tell that you have complete admiration for her and respect for her. And I just want to know how she's been throughout the whole process, how she's helped, just everything. Just here's your chance to dote on your wife.
Yeah, she it's interesting because she knew me when I was nobody. She knew me, this poor white kid from Detroit, and I didn't have anything. And so she watched me on the way up for a minute and then crash again, back in 08 when the market did what it did. And so she was just massively encouraging the whole time. Like, listen, I know you're more than this, and the market doesn't make you. And just really believed in who I could become and who I was already, and really just leans on that. And so she's also one of the few people that just like can straight call me on my shit, and I'm totally okay with it. Whereas somebody else, it might sound mean or whatever. She's like, "Ken, no, you're being this way, and because you're being this way, this is what's happening." And you know somebody for 20 years, and they kind of know you pretty well. And so I think that's one of the keys to intimacy in marriage is not just like a sexual word. It's like there's if you bare your soul with your wife, I feel like there's so much more that can come out of it than just a bruised ego, that you can actually grow together into something really special. And so she's an amazing mom, and definitely an amazing support to everything that we do.
How did y'all make the decision, or whose decision was it, to even think about coming to Florida?
It was hers for sure. So my 2015 was the first year I made $1 million selling real estate. And so in January of 16, we came down to Florida to buy a second home. And we're like, listen, we're already down here 3-4 times a year anyways. Like, it's our happy place. Our kids love it. Let's make some memories. We'll Airbnb it while we're not using it, and that kind of thing. And so we put in a deposit on a townhome to buy a second home. And then we went back to the hotel, and it was just she and I on this trip. I remember vividly, the kids stayed at home because we wanted, to be able to think a little bit more than just the loudness of the back seat and all that kind of stuff. And so we were sitting by the pool, and she's like, "Why don't we just make this our life?" And I was like, yeah, that's funny, but anyways. And she's like, "No, but for real, like, what if this became us?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, maybe one day, maybe I could run 2 teams. I could do one in Detroit, one in Orlando." And she's like, "Yeah, do that." And so anyways, it was literally that week we decided we're going to move from the townhome to go build a bigger house. And so we literally walked in and we like, "Hey, so we don't want to buy that townhome anymore." And they're like, "Oh, then," like the salesperson, you could tell was like, "Oh, we lost the sale. Oh, dang." And I was like, instead, I want to buy that bigger house that's going to take 8 months to build. And we're just going to go all in. Like, basically, I'm going to give myself another 7-8 months. We're going to move here. And so, yeah, sure enough, August of 16, we ended up moving into the house and moved all the way. But yeah, it was definitely her.
That's hearing that. Again, I want people to really focus on that, is you had a thriving, budding business that you just shifted from REO business to luxury business. You're making serious money.
Yeah.
And yet you felt this nudge to come to Florida.
Yeah.
Other than your wife's nudge, what was something that really excited you about coming to Florida and having to start over?
I thought, it's funny because people from the Midwest are very proud of their work ethic. And I look at Floridians and there's people from all over the world, but there's also some very complacent people here. And so I was like, you know what? There's 16,000 realtors. The average one sells like less than one house a year. And so I could come in, use my hustle and hopefully take over. And at first I was like sorely mistaken. I'm like, there's actually some killers here that do amazing, amazing work. And, totally, it was like an ego talking before, but that was something I was most excited about. I was like, hey, could I use a transferable skill, move here, use the Midwest hustle and see what happens. And so, the first year was very tough. Like, I punched me in my teeth. It was so bad. And then I eventually got my groove and started being a little bit more consistent with the work that I needed to do, which that was a big one. I had one of my best friends in my life. I called him. I'm like, Jay, I want to move back to Michigan because at least I know people there. I have a business there. It'll be easy. And he's like, well, you're not doing everything you could be doing. Like, don't be a wuss. Like, go do all the stuff that you should be doing, and you'll be successful. And literally, that was a changing point for me. And so, not long after that, we got into YouTube, and then it's kind of taken off from there.
Everybody's got to have a J.
That's very true.
Well, and I feel like we try to do, I know when I say we, usually if I say we, it means me. When we think of those things, we try to do stuff on our own and excuse our way out of the reasons why we're not successful.
Sure.
And then you've got somebody like your wife or my wife, or friends that are like, well, are you doing everything? And you have to take a deep breath. So, if whoever's listening to this, if you're not happy with where you're at right now, we're going to be your J and just ask, are you doing everything that you know you need to do to become great? And you probably know the answer to that question.
You probably already know the answer, whether like you know what you should be doing, but you're probably not. And if you're not, there's only two things that'll change your life. It's finding the right who in your life or the right skill in your life. And then from there, it's just being consistent after that. So it's like, for me, like, I know I needed a team because I'm not great at video editing. I'm not great at doing contracts beyond getting it accepted. I'm not great at a lot of things, but I'm really good at a couple. And so you start leveraging out all the stuff that you're not good at. And then you've got somebody like my wife or a Jay or somebody else in your life to kind of keep your plug in. And man, after that, look out,
So talk to us about, because I feel like you're probably most well known for your YouTube and for the content that you put up. Share that path and how that's gone and what your first thoughts were and the struggles, and because the success is easy. You just go on your page and you look at it, but talk to us about the things that people may not know about.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that was trial by fire, trial and error, which was YouTube. And I remember thinking, like, a friend of mine in Jacksonville reached out and was like, hey, he goes, I know you just moved to this new area. I've been doing these model home tours. And you kind of, I remember he specifically said, he's like, you could be like a small little Ryan Serhant down there doing your thing, showing off the cool houses. And every once in a while, can people actually reach out to me from YouTube? And I was like, well, shoot, I don't have anything else going on. I've got, no clients at this point. I'm doing all this other work, waiting for it to show up. I'll try this YouTube thing. And so I put out 100 videos in 100 days of me just doing model home tours, walking through different houses, trying to be like the next HGTV star. And then eventually I realized that nobody cared about that stuff. I wasn't getting any views. I wasn't getting any traction. And I was like, what would be like something that somebody would Google, because Google owns YouTube. And like, that's how actually it works. It's a search engine first and then entertainment almost second. People are there to learn stuff. And so I put out a video together. It was the top 10 things you didn't know about Celebration, Florida, which, for those listening, Celebration is the town that Disney created. And it's very like searchable. People want to know, like if they're here on vacation, they might want to drive through it. If they're thinking about moving to the area, they want to find out more information. So I put that video out, get 45,000 views in like 2 weeks. And I was like, holy crap, like that's something, right? And so I immediately switched to doing more stuff that would cause people to learn. And I realized that like the more value you could put out in the world, the more you could teach people, the more it comes back to you tenfold. And so that became our strategy, was just let me be the concierge to Orlando, and then not make it the Ken show. Like you don't even, like if you watch any of my videos, it's not, hey, this is Ken Pozek, I'm a real estate agent, I want to help you in Orlando. Like I don't say that till the very end of the video. It's all, hey, today you're watching this video and this is what you're going to learn. And at the end of this video, you know, I'm going to talk to you about the top 3 predictions I've got for next year, or whatever it might be. And so they're going to watch that video, learn something, and then hopefully, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk has this whole saying of jab, 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 right hook. So it's value, value, value. And then after you've given so much value, you can come in with the right hook, and with which is your ask. And so that's become our content strategy. And we have a website called the Orlando Reel. We talk about the newest bars and the newest ride attractions, the newest neighborhoods, just all things Orlando. We want to be a resource for people. And we know that if we do that and then sprinkle in a little bit of real estate from time to time, it's going to work. And so far, been growing this big organization. So this year we'll do just shy of like 6 million in revenue, and you know, super profitable because we're not having to like give money to Zillow and all these other places.
That's awesome. Well, and then shifting, and I know in the real estate world, moving brokerages the way some people do it, they don't think anything about it. But I know that was a bigger deal for you because of where you were at. What were some of the choices, the decisions, the challenges that you had in switching those?
Yeah, I was with Keller Williams for 12 years, and amazing company run by really great people. But it just is, it's funny because when I joined them, they were definitely cutting edge, moving the market. They were the one to watch. And then over time, it became what Tom Ferry calls a fading winner, meaning like you crushed it for so long that you got high on your own supply, and eventually you start kind of fading off into the distance. And I think that's what Keller Williams was. So eventually I looked at my team. I said, well, we're either going to go independent, we're going to try this other virtual brokerage, or we're going to go to Real Broker, which is this like newer upstart that I really believe in. And so, so part of it was, is this going to be good for just me, or is it going to be great for my team? And then how does that affect our clients? And so there's a lot of like thoughts behind that. I didn't want to have just a win for me. There was a big company, I won't name them, but they offered me like $1.5 million to come over. And I was like, that would be great for me, but it would not be great for my team. And so where's a good win that we can succeed by joining a company that's, you know, tech forward, has a rev share opportunity where I can have a piece of ownership with it that would also be good for my team and clients. And so that's how we landed on Real Broker, and wasn't the easiest move, but it's been 5 months now, and it's been really great. So looking up today, I would do it over again.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, it was thinking about the pathways. These are all twisty, windy paths that you continue to travel. None of these things are linear. It sounds like it because you're very well spoken, that it's, oh, well, just happened and here we go. And then we've made this big transition. But
Sure.
Knowing real life, there's ups and downs. There's roots in the pathway and the trail of life that you trip over and you stumble and you get hurt. But through it, like you said, with your tattoo, is you just get back up and you keep going.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
you have an eye on the peak.
Yeah. I think the only time you give up on life is when you don't get back up that next time. And so for me, I just the amount of mistakes I've made, or the amount of problems that come to my plate on a weekly basis, they pile up. And if I only focused on that, I would be a very depressed man. But the fact that we've got so much to be thankful for, and so many things that have, I feel like are wins, and so many people we're positively affecting. That's what matters. So we're just going to keep at it.
So tactically speaking, if you have one of those failures that come your way or challenging situations, how do you manage through it?
I think acknowledging it first is a big one, because some things happen. Someone dies, a client gets upset, somebody on your team that is near and dear to you misplaces their trust. I had somebody on my team, was on my operations staff, that really betrayed me in a bad way. And so I had to look at that and say, okay, did I hire wrong? And for me, I'm David Goggins, like very also Jocko Willink, like, extreme ownership, like that stuff to me matters a lot. Like I'm going to look at me first and foremost and figure out where did I go wrong, acknowledge the problem, and then figure out how could I have done better. Did I fail this operations person because I put them in a position maybe that they weren't ready for yet? Could I have trained them better? Could I put some other, fail safes in place? What does that look like? And so for me, I'm very internal that way, probably to a fault. And then after that, just put some things into place that it won't happen again. And then after that, you just kind of mark it up as an opportunity to win and move on.
What I love about that is what you said is ownership, is that I've noticed I'm able to get through problems faster when I just own it.
Yeah.
Don't push blame. Don't make it ugly. It's just, if you own it and realize what you did, whether it was blind trust, you just blatantly just turned your eye to the situation. Okay, well, that's your fault if something happened and you did that. Or like you said, if there were some specific things that may have come your way, and then sometimes it's not your fault.
Right. Yeah.
You've done everything right, but if you don't look at it, you don't know.
Yeah. And I feel like with the if you don't have extreme ownership first, it's so easy to wonder what if, and you can kind of keep going down this rabbit hole of what somebody said or how they said it or how they treated you. And like, it's cancerous. It just eats at you over time. Whereas I feel like if you just own it and say, okay, here's where I could have done better. I can't control other people and move on. Gosh, that's such a much more healthy place to be.
And I don't know if you've seen it recently, as I made a couple of posts about taking ownership as a parent. I've really taken heart to doing that, is that there's so many times that I may have gotten very frustrated with my kids. But if I look at the situation, I go, well, it was my fault. I didn't explain myself. I just assumed that they would know what that meant.
Right.
And they didn't do it. And I got frustrated.
Sure.
So I had to own it and go and apologize. Say, look, I'm sorry I got upset. And here's why I got upset, because I didn't explain myself properly. So
and
here we
as
go.
As parents, you never want to apologize. Like, I feel like that's the thing people say. And yet, like, what if us as like parents, we would just actually own our mistakes and tell our kids we made a mistake and here's what we would do different, and ask for an apology. Like, I didn't grow up that way. Like I that was not really in my family, my aunts and uncles, everybody, it was your fault or someone else's fault. And so, yeah, being like owning up to your kids, like what a healthy individual you're helping create and nurture the way that parents should. Unfortunately, that's just not always the case. So yeah, well on you.
Yeah, because I want them to come to me when they make a mistake and not hide it. Because every time I made a mistake, I hid it.
That's
because
right.
I didn't know how to handle that back and forth.
Yep.
So I grew up in a Southern household that just you didn't talk about anything, nothing.
You don't talk about feelings. You don't talk about mistakes. You don't talk about any of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, like if my kid, like we tell my kids, we're very like cautious, or like we're very open to talk about alcohol and drugs, and like, hey, listen, wait till you're older for the alcohol stuff, stay away from drugs. And like, you decide how you want to treat relationships, but like, here's what I would do if I were you. Here's how I treat your mother. You see this is how I live. But if you ever make a mistake and you're, it's 1 a.m, call me. Like, I'm there for you, and I'm not going to rag on you, because we're all making mistakes and we're all figuring life out together. But we're like, to me, I think that that's a much more healthy approach than do this, and if you find out, you're going to die. And so, yeah, hopefully we're all figuring this out as parents together.
And this was the stuff that when I was getting ready to have kids, that nobody prepares you for. They talk to you about the sleepless nights of changing diapers and feeding. They don't say, well, fast forward when they're 14, here's what you're going to have to deal with.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then my daughter's 12.
Oh,
so
man.
I don't know. How old's your daughter?
And I've got an 11 and a 4-year-old daughter as well.
Ooh, man, it was like a light switch.
Oh man. Oh man.
Oh, it went from I hung the moon to don't touch me.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's
so
amazing and also challenging. And you hope that if you did the right thing as a parent, they're going to come back around one day, and it's just like, but man, it's an emotional roller coaster. That's for sure.
Well, and it's hard. Life as a teenager right now, and I know every generation says it, and just looking at it, it just looks really hard right now, because there's so much coming at them from every single angle, because I mean, I know I'm older than you, and realizing just the limitations that you and I both had. I mean, I'm older than you, but you still, I mean, where technology has gone in the last decade is insane with the access.
Oh man. So
And
we don't, I don't know if you got a 12 and 14-year-old, just the two? Yeah.
well, yes, yeah.
Do you let them have social media at all? Yeah, at this age?
So my son, we just let him have an Instagram
Yeah.
and a Twitter.
Yep.
For recruiting purposes.
Sure.
We've given him guidelines, we've explained what it is, and then now, unfortunately, they all communicate through Snapchat. Like, they don't text message anybody. They just
Talking about kids in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my
Yes.
daughter, no, we have not let her have anything yet.
Yeah, we've been a hard no on the social media thing. And 14, 15 was the age that my wife and I had discussed, like, 2-3 years ago, when we're like, hey, all right, so they're finally getting cell phones, which I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 17. So I don't know, like, my kids now have them at 11. I'm just like, okay. So, I mean, it is the way of the world. Like, I understand, like, they need it for school. They need it for so many things. But I'm like, social media, nope. No, I might just even be case by case, depending on how mature they are as kids, because honestly, I don't need them to see like see the stuff that they need to see, but then also start playing the comparison game. Like, talk about, I mean, that's something that I still struggle with all the time, is like, you compare and contrast is like the hardest thing, I feel like, as a parent, and then also as a human, of just looking at what other people are doing and, comparing yourself anyways.
Yeah, because the comparison comes without context.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to bring. Like, that's why I was excited to have you on here, is you juxtapose me. I can't expect to be where you're at 20 years into your real estate career. Right. And I'm a year.
Yeah.
But it's hard, because you sit there like, I want to be there. It's like, okay, well, put the work in, put the 30 to 40 calls per day, shovel human feces if you have to. Like, what are you willing to do? Most people aren't willing to do that. So they probably won't get to where you're at if they're not willing to do those things and eat some humble pie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the whole like you versus you is like one of the more, speaking of kids or just people that are on your team or people listening to this podcast, like, you compare yourself to you. And if you can get really healthy and really clear around that, and just like, hey, listen, me versus me yesterday, me versus me last year. And if you're making progress, then you're winning. And if, like you said, like I've got agents on my team that have been in the real estate business for less than a year. And I've got some that have been in 5 years, and I'm like, listen, you can't compare each other. Like, Geo doing 35 million and you doing 8, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. Like, let's just keep moving forward. Yeah. But it's very easy to get caught up in that trap.
Yeah. We talked about David Goggins. That was another thing, is the accountability mirror. Huge fan of that. And I have Post-it notes everywhere. And that was a big turning point for me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Did you use any of his tactics from his book?
No, I didn't. I mean, I'm like a huge, like, I follow him on Instagram, and like, I've listened to so many of his podcasts, but I didn't actually finish Can't Hurt Me. So I need to pick it back up again.
So if you get a chance, since you're a content creator, listen to it.
Okay.
The value is listening to it. Does he do
the audio?
Yes. The audiobook is fantastic. Yeah, so, okay. Well, he does, and the actual writer of the book does. So It ends up like a podcast. So the author reads the chapter, then he'll stop, and then he brings David in and interviews David about the chapter.
That's cool.
It's fascinating. I just got his new one on Audible, and I haven't listened to that one yet. I'm trying to finish Becoming a King right now. I don't know if you've ever listened to that one.
I haven't, no.
That one's good.
Awesome. All right, I'll check it out.
Morgan Snyder. So he is
adding to my pile, man.
Yeah, he's a mentee of John Eldridge.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read any of John Eldridge stuff.
Is he Wild at Heart guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. His, and then I finished The Way of the Warrior by Eric McManus before that one. Killer. That's what I listen to when I run.
I love it.
What do you listen to? What do you listen to when you run?
I don't. So somebody asked me this the other day. I'm a weirdo. Like, I'm the kind of guy that I just want 2 hours of solitude, and no social media. I turn my texts on because I want my wife to be able to get a hold of me, but I try not to look at my watch at all. And I just run. And so that's, it's interesting. Whenever I have a content block, or I'm trying to work through a thing with my team members, or just anything like that, a good long run, man, I come back solved every time. So, yeah.
Well, and you bring up, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. So many people including me, avoid that silence because of
Yeah.
everything that's going on in their head.
Yeah.
Talk to people if they want to start down that road of either running without headphones or just sitting in your house without a TV or music on. What were some of the things that you did to get you to that place?
Yeah, I used to have a whole podcast list and run soundtrack and everything. And one of the days my AirPods just would not connect to my watch. And I was like, I got to get a run in because I was training for a half marathon. I was just like ready to go. So I just went and I came back and I remember it was very difficult. And my wife used to make fun of me all the time. She's like, you don't stop ever. Like you don't stop moving ever. And I feel she would say like, I feel like you're afraid of your own thoughts. And I was like, damn it. Like, yeah, you're probably right. And so I remember that first run, I came back and I had worked through a couple things, like big things that I was not giving the time that they deserved to figure out. And I didn't unfortunately have anything to write with. So I had to like rehearse it back to myself. So I'm like, I don't want to forget this when I get home. And so I was rehearsing, okay, here's what the content idea is. And here's how I'm going to deal with this person. Here's how I need to go focus on this. And here's the next person I need to hire. And I was like, man, I'm going to do this 2-3 times a week. Like never, just even from the physical aspect, it's, great for you to get out there and get your heart pumping, but just from a mindset thing. And maybe you're not a runner or a biker or whatever. Maybe you just want to meditate. Like, I feel like that's like training yourself to be able to slow down, listen to your inner thoughts, not be distracted by social media or anybody else getting in your head. Like it's a powerful thing.
Yeah. Just go sit on a park bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have Central Park here, but most of these subdivisions have benches around the retention pond.
They really do. Yeah. Especially, and like, I don't know what it is. I love, we up and down, we live not too far from each other, but up and down Sidell, there's all these ponds and stuff. And like, I just do a big loop around there over and over again. There's something about looking at water too, that's like scientifically proven that it lowers your blood pressure. And so, yeah, if you're ever trying to figure this out, like just go get in front of a bottle of water, sit on the shore there and get after it. I think, man, mindfulness, I feel like, is something that I need to be able to teach more now that I've been doing it for the past couple of years, but it's definitely a superpower.
Yeah. And I also feel like it's very personal.
It is.
And it's more subjective, I think, if that's the right term, versus objective. I think you can teach the importance of doing it, but each person has to be willing to do their own investigation.
Yeah.
And their own adventure of what works for them.
Yeah. Have you ever tried the, speaking of trying, like what works for you, have you ever tried like the Calm app or anything of that stuff?
So I tried it once and then I realized that it cost money. So I just didn't do it.
I feel like, to me, I tried it because I was trying to figure out this whole meditation thing and just, if I could lower my blood pressure. And actually, we didn't talk about this. I lost a bunch of weight through COVID, like on purpose. And, but I was trying to lower my blood pressure because my doctor said, listen, dude, you're only 36, or at the time I was 35. And you're going to stroke out in your 40s if you don't figure something out, or we're going to have to put you on medicine so that you don't, because your blood pressure is out of control. So I'll try meditation. Right. And so all it does is just give you one other thing to listen to. And it didn't help me at all. I was like, the guy's like, all right, let's go through this meditation process. And it was kind of like listening to a podcast. It didn't chill me out. I don't feel like I really learned a ton. But I understand the process. Okay, now that I'm out running, being mindful, thinking of the things that you want to think through, the problems you want to solve, it's a whole different skill, I feel like.
Yeah, because I feel like when I listen to those, then I'm going to do something wrong.
Yes. Yeah. And then you're totally counterproductive at that point.
Wait a minute, what was that? Wait, I didn't do it for 4 seconds. I was supposed to do it for 6. And
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, that's why I won't do 75 hard. I have a lot of friends that have done 75 hard. Have you heard of that?
I have. And that's, I think if you're trying to get really good at doing something for 75 days, we've heard that if you do something for 66 days, you can create a habit, which is awesome. But for the people that I've had go through it or tell me about it, they're like, yeah, I lost all this weight, but then the month afterwards, I gained it all back. I'm like, that seems really unhealthy. I don't know. What do you think about 75 hard?
I won't do it. And I won't do it for a couple of reasons. One, because I know that would happen. And that I would, and 2, that I would drive my wife absolutely nuts because I would get so hyper focused on it.
Yeah, you want to do
that. Yeah, that it would end up being detrimental to our household.
Yeah.
And I would be stressed out. I'd be anxious. And that's the last thing that I need to be, because naturally that way anyway.
Anyways, yeah, I get you, man.
So,
I get you.
so it's like, just give me one thing to focus on and then I'll do it. And
Yep.
so what I'm doing right now, and I want to get into your training, is that I've turned 50 in February. And so my buddies, there's several of us that are turning 50. They want to do a 50 miler. And so I'm going to train for that, but I probably won't be able to do it when they do it because my daughter has a volleyball tournament in Atlanta that weekend.
Okay.
But I know in February, I'm going to do the calendar club. And so that's a mile for every day of the month.
Okay. So
I
day
did
one,
it back.
1 mile. Day
Yep,
30,
1,
day
2,
30,
3.
it's 30 miles.
Yeah.
Oof, once you get over 10, that seems so aggressive. Good for you.
Yeah. But you can break it up. You don't have to do it all. Like, you can break up the miles throughout the day.
Sure. Okay.
So
Yeah, that could definitely be doable.
it's a little better, but it's an all-day task. So I did it in 2020 and I did the kilometer version. I have a buddy that's Canadian. He's like, "You want to do it? We'll do it in kilometers." I was like, "Sure."
Sure. That's
Kilometers way better. But still, at the end of the month, I think I did 435 miles at the end of the month.
That's awesome.
What was hard, though, is the reason why I think people with 75 hard is it was harder for me to stop like the next day, not to get up and go run.
Sure.
But then I didn't run for like 4 months. Like, how
Yeah.
it spent me for everything that I had. So let's talk about your running. Are you training for anything?
Yeah, I mean, so I am. So I was supposed to be doing my first full marathon next week, and I'm not ready. Like, I didn't hit 20 miles. So my run coach was like, "Hey, you need to hit 20 miles 2 weeks ago," and I just wasn't there. I had 4 hernias that I got repaired 5 months ago, and it took me like off my running game for 2 months, and then I was just really slow to get back into it, and then life got in the way. And so something had to give in my schedule. Unfortunately, that was that. But now I'm back to running 3 nights a week and then working out, cross training 2 nights a week. So getting back healthy again. And my goal is to run my first marathon in March. I got to find the one. So if you have a good one here locally, let me know. But yeah, so that's my goal. And then I want to run the New York full in November as well. So my goal was to do like a race every other month for the entire year of 2023.
Now, for the marathon, what do you have a goal?
It was 4.5 hours. So nothing crazy, like just a very beginner-ish, pace. Like, so I can run a half marathon in like 2:10-ish right now. So I thought, full marathon 4:30 would be about right.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hit my max. So I did the Disney marathon weekend every weekend for 10 years.
Oh, that's
awesome. And then I stopped because it's too expensive. And just like you gave a good report on it, it's just not what it used to be.
Yeah.
That and waking up at 3 a.m. is for the birds.
It is. Yeah. 3 a.m. to run. And then, not awesome. Yeah. I've only been doing it the past couple of years, but I mean, even the past couple of years, I could kind of see a bit of a downward spiral in regard. I mean, they're volunteers. They're only giving a half day park ticket to. I'm like, come on, like, you invest a little bit more into the people. But anyways,
yeah, because they have to be there at 3 a.m. I mean, they're there all day
for free. I mean, to say that they were part of it, I don't know that that's actually a reward, but
and the swag bag is garbage.
Yeah, not
garbage.
Awesome as it definitely could be.
I mean, it should be a duffel bag full of stuff.
Yeah, especially for the $200-300 you're spending for it. I did the half marathon in New York this past year, or actually this year, and still 2022. And they gave me a ton of stuff. Like, it was shirts, and I mean, there's like a swag box with like all the different sponsors all threw stuff in, and it was like good stuff that I brought home with me. That's how good it was, and it was half the cost. So, anyways,
yeah. Now we sound like 2 old men.
I know, we're just old dudes complaining about Disney.
Complaining about swag bags.
But if you're watching and you're at Disney, I love Disney, by the way. I just step it up, run Disney. How about that?
Yeah, I love Disney, but not run Disney. It has lost its luster.
Yeah, there you go.
I just lost a thought. This is the reality of being new to podcasting. But so if you look back, because I want to be very cognizant of your time, because I know you're busy. So if you had to leave with a parting thought and leave the audience with a parting thought about pathways to greatness, what would it be?
I think first is just defining what that is for you, and again, running your own race, not playing the comparison game, not looking at if you're if you're in real estate, for example, not looking at what I'm doing or what anybody else is doing, but figure out what's good for you. What do you want to accomplish, and then get after that. I think running your own race is probably the biggest piece of advice I could give anybody, because it's the only way that you're going to find any joy out of this. Because what you will find is that if you're comparing all the time, like I had this guy named Chris Knight, and he passed away, but he was like one of the guy that I was looking after so hard. He was like 40 years old, selling 30 million, which in real estate, gets you to be, $700,000 or $900,000, depending on commission you're getting. It's a lot of money for an individual person. And I was like, one day I'm going to get there, and it's going to it'll be fulfilling, and I'll feel different about myself, and it'll just, I'll be set for life. Like I had all these really big things of what 30 million in my mind got to, and I got to 30 million. I was like, oh, it's just another day. And yeah, it was a big accomplishment, but like, I still have a lot more life to live. And like, it was actually a very depressing day for me, which I thought was like this pinnacle, all of a sudden became kind of depressing. And so because I wasn't running my own race. And so to this year, like, I honestly don't know how my team ranks in regards to like numbers locally. I got like a couple of people have told me that they think that I'm in the top 5 or 10 or whatever. I don't care. Like, I'm just like, my team and I, we set this goal together, and this mattered to us together because of these personal reasons and our big why. And because we hit it, I'm excited about that. And so if I had to give any advice, I think that's it.
That's gold. Well, I will add absolutely nothing to that. But where can people find you?
So Instagram's the best way.
Awesome. And then how can I support you? Hey, no problem. I appreciate you, sir. I'm glad that I got to meet you now virtually.
Actually meet up in person now and grab a coffee or something.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate you, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, man, you too.